Hey everyone, welcome to my first Photoshop tutorial. Sorry I've been kind of late on getting the content up. I've just been over getting sick. So in this first tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make a really cool abstract texture background like this. You could use it for really just about anything, for backgrounds or for overlaying layers in Photoshop and stuff. In this, we kind of made a really cool grungy metal texture background. And so for this, it's basically done in two different phases. The first is collecting your textures and then blending them together. And then the second phase is using something called the Night Collection. You want to use Color Efex Pro for. And so I use that and I kind of push out all the contrast and the shadows and stuff and do a little bit of filtering and kind of get this look. Now you don't have to do that portion of it, but I do because I think it looks a lot better. So for this particular image, what we did was I just took these 5 textures that I took. So you have about 5 different metal textures here. And you just simply blend them together. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and start with this one. And we don't have to make a new document or anything. So I'm going to go ahead and take this texture. I'm going to hit Control A to select all, Control C to copy, Control W to close. And then on this one, I'm going to hit Control V, boom, instantly copies over the layer. Now for textures, it's really easy to get a really good overlay going, a really good blend going. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and you can kind of go and cycle through which ones you think look best. Sometimes I find the best happens to be overlay because you kind of get, especially with textures, because you could kind of get a lot of the things showing through and a lot of the subtle features of the different textures blending together, and I really like that. But let's just see. Ooh, hard light looks pretty good. Yeah, let's do hard light for this one. I like the way the shadows and the light look right here, but yet you can still kind of see the metal parts coming through. Okay. On this image, I actually use overlay for a lot of these images, and I just took the brush tool and, the eraser tool and kind of erased out parts, and I'll go ahead and show you. We're not going to make it exactly like that, but it's just an idea so you can get. We're not going to do it exactly like that, but just so you can get an idea. All right, texture 11. Okay, so now we're going to take this next. Again, Control A to select all, Control C to copy, and Control W to close. And again, Control V. Boom. Okay, now for this one, let's actually go ahead. I'm going to hit Control T to. I'm going to go ahead and hit Control T. So I have control over it. Hold down Shift, and we're going to drag it all the way around. I mean, I could have just right-clicked and clicked flip vertical, but I don't know why I decided to do it that way. Go ahead, enter. Okay, cool. So now with this one, we want to go ahead and set it to maybe, I don't know, hard light looks kind of cool. Some of these don't look great at all, so you kind of got to play around with it and see which one really looks good. There's a lot that'll look really similar, like when you get to the overlay, soft light and hard light, there's not too much of a difference. So I guess we'll go ahead and go with overlay for now. That looks okay. So now let's go to texture 10. Actually, let's do this one last. We'll go over to texture 3. Let's do this one next. Alright, again, my bad, I'm going to take Control A. So go ahead and Control A, select all, Control C, Control W. Okay, go back over to this one, Control V. Boom. Okay, so now let's go ahead and let's do hard light. And then what we can do is we can kind of take the eraser tool and kind of erase out parts. Another big thing I like to do is mess with the fill and the opacity. As you can tell, the the opacity kind of brings something like this, but the fill, I feel like you have more control. I guess it doesn't really show for this particular texture, but I feel like with the fill option, you can kind of control how much it really bleeds through. But again, for this particular texture, it doesn't really look like it makes that much of a difference. So we'll go ahead and leave the fill alone on this layer. All right, so let's go ahead and grab the eraser tool. But definitely, if you're going to be doing this, definitely make sure you want to play around with the different blending modes as well as the fill and opacity, because you can really pinpoint a perfect look. So with the eraser tool, I have it set to opacity 26, flow 100. That's really all I need. Make sure you have a soft brush. And with the bracket keys on my keyboard, I can cycle through the size. And I'm kind of just going to go ahead and go through and kind of just erase parts that I want to bleed through. just like this. I don't want to get everything, but I kind of want it to blend nicely, kind of have its own look to it. Already it's looking a lot better in my opinion. Kind of have it cycle through like that. Get a little bit in here and right there. I don't know if this is just not showing up or if it's just Photoshop lagging on me. Okay, I think it's just not showing up. Okay, so maybe let's get a little bit right here and maybe up here. Okay, I guess we'll call that good. Alright, so now the next thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and add the last texture. This one. So again, Control A to select all, Control C and Control W, Control V. Alright, now for this one, actually, let's go ahead and Control T and let's flip it vertically. Hit enter. That looks kind of cool. Yeah, let's do an overlay for this one. And I think let's kind of blend it in just a little bit. I'm trying to do it differently like the texture I have here, whereas I didn't really flip these around with this one. I'm trying to. So I just want it to look different and see what you can kind of do with your own textures and stuff like that. Now a lot of these textures you can really get off DeviantArt, but all these textures I actually took myself. But you just want to get like flat surface textures you can kind of make your own for this. And a lot of people do really like these. Okay, so once you're done, you're gonna kind of have a really interesting design. I know mine's kind of weird because I kind of erased a lot of the sides, so it's just this weird shape going through, but you know, that's okay because it's just for the sake of the tutorial. So what we're gonna do now is you want to make sure to double click the background so it's not locked. Okay, so shift click on the top layer. It selects all your layers. Go ahead, hit Control G. This puts them into a group. And then I like to go ahead and grab down and bring it to the new layer so it creates a copy of that. So now with this new group layer, I go ahead and hit Control E. It forms all that into just one single layer. The reason I do this is so I have all my back layers in case I want to modify something, but yet I have the rendered copy right here. So now at this point, we're going to go into the phase 2 of the editing, which you don't have to do if you don't have this plugin. It does cost money. I believe you can download a demo or a trial of it, but I'm not 100% sure. But if not, you can kind of just play around with the Photoshop settings, maybe like an image adjustments, hue and saturation, color balance, you know, little bits here and there. But overall, you're kind of end up with something closer to this. But since we're going to move on, I will use this layer and we'll go to Filter, Knit Collection, Color Effects Pro 4. And this is to me where a lot of the magic happens because you can kind of make things pop and really bring things out of the texture. Alright, so now that it's finally loaded, we can kind of see the rendered preview right here. As you can see here, we kind of have a lot of different tabs I could choose from, a lot of different effects. What I always like to do is I like to start off by going to recipes. And I like to generally just choose something to start with and kind of just start adding to it. And see, a lot of these actually look really cool. I know the point of this is kind of creating something that's really over the top and, you know, really overdone, and that's kind of the point. Again, if you don't really want a lot of like really heavy contrast or effects, you don't have to. This is just what I like to go for. So I always like to go with something called Super Cross Pop and kind of just edit it from there. So that looks pretty good, but to me it's a little too much, so we can go ahead and kind of start doing things to it. Now we have dark contrast, which we can go ahead and mess with first. That doesn't really seem to do much. I guess it does do quite a bit. Okay, so we can bring that down a little bit. Let's bring up the brightness, maybe just a little bit. Again, and something I really like to do too is use the control points. It kind of really adds a dynamic to your image, so not the entire image, just that one filter. You kind of just set it in spots where you think it's going to look really good. So like right here, I think it looks cool, and then like right up here, looks really cool. This way these areas of the image are left untouched, but these areas really have the dark contrast filter to it. Okay, next up, cross-processing. Okay, so these are the different colors we can choose. Again, it doesn't really matter, especially if you're not really going for a specific color scheme. And in our case, we're not. So I think I'll probably just choose something along the lines of, I don't know, sure, let's go with that. bring the strength all the way up, and then control point. And wait till you see, there you go, some dynamic in the image right there. Ooh, that actually looks really good. Yeah, let's bring that out. Maybe up here. And again, down here. Cool. I'm thinking right there. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, cool. Now we'll go to cross balance. All right. It's kind of similar to cross balance. Excuse me, kind of similar to cross processing, but it's just a little bit different. This one, choose something like that. I'm thinking maybe about, I don't know, yay. We'll kind of just blend it in a little bit. See, this way the image kind of has some color dynamics going on and some contrast dynamics going on. And it's not just a singular filtered image. There's actually a lot of different stuff going on in the image, which I really like. It's makes a really cool texture to use. And these work great with using it for a lot of different backgrounds and stuff like that. That looks pretty cool to me. Okay, so now I think I'm going to go ahead and say, for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to say the texture's probably done. Let's just go ahead and see if there's anything else we want to go ahead and throw on. To me, that looks great. And a lot of times using the super cross pop recipe works great, and then just kind of fine tuning each of these three, because you get something like looks like this and it looks really great. I don't think there's anything in here that I really want to throw on extra. Yeah, I think we'll go ahead and call this good. So go ahead and hit OK. Boom, it is done. Okay, so there you have it, ladies and gents. This is your finished texture, and as you can see, compared to the original. So that's obviously without the Color Efex Pro. With the Color Efex Pro, you know, you may not necessarily like this particular one, and again, you don't have to use it, but I think it adds so much more dimension and breathability to the actual texture itself. I mean, just to me, it's night and day, and it really just kind of makes it stand on its own, and it looks great. So yeah, if you like this tutorial, go ahead and like and comment and tell me anything that you'd like to see done in Photoshop or Lightroom. And again, guys, if you like my content, go ahead and subscribe, and I will see you in the next tutorial.